जय श्री राधे। श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय हो। सब वैष्णवन को सादर सप्रेम जय श्री कृष्ण। Jai Shri Radhe. Today is day 45 of our readings of the tales of the 84 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Vallabhacharya Ji. And today is Varta 33, the story of Ramdas, a Sanchora Brahmin from Rajnagar. Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, Ramdas is Subhaga, a Sakhi of Indulekha. Who is a Sakhi of Subhaga? In the eternal Leela, Ramdas is Subhaga, a Sakhi of Indulekha, who is a Sakhi of Sri Swaminiji, and his wife is Subhadra, a Sakhi of Subhaga. They were both born into Sanchora Brahmin families in Rajnagar. Their parents married them off when he was 9 and she was 8. However, Ramdas had been of a renunciate nature ever since he was born. He didn't have many likes or dislikes, and he didn't speak much. His parents tried to educate him, but he was not interested. One day, when Ramdas was sitting by the side of the lake in Rajnagar, a man whose job it was to make oil came there with 4 or 5 oxen. He led the oxen to drink at the lake. While it was drinking, one of the oxen fell into the water. The oil maker began to lament. Ramdas asked him why he was crying, and he replied, "My ox has fallen into the water, and it is dead." Ramdas was only 10 and was innocent, so he piped up, "Is it dead?" "No, it is just lying in the water. Lift it up." The oil man told him that there was no point in lifting it up because it was dead. Its life force had left its body. Ramdas asked whether everything died like this, and the oil man told him that everyone and everything eventually met this fate, sooner or later. As soon as he heard this, Ramdas ran away from that place, and indeed ran all the way to Dwarkapuri. There he had the sight of Sri Ranachorlalji in the temple. At that time, Sri Acharyaji was giving a discourse, and Ramdas went there to listen. He felt very happy. As he listened, he had the idea to stay close to Sri Acharyaji for some days and listen to his speaking, also to become his disciple. When the discourse was over, he approached Sri Acharyaji and, after bowing low to him, requested him to accept him and let him stay close that he can continue to listen to the discourses. Sri Acharyaji asked him who he was and from where he had come. Ramdas told him everything about himself, that he came from Rajnagar, was a Sanchora Brahmin family, and that he felt like renouncing the world when he saw the oilman's ox die. "I came here and heard your discourse and have seen you now." Sri Acharyaji could perceive that the boy was obviously a divine soul, but that he was very young. He thought to himself that if he let the boy back into the world outside, then he might become corrupted by bad company. So he decided to keep Ramdas with him for some time until his renunciation became firm, and then he would let him go. With this consideration, Sri Acharyaji told him to take a bath, and thereafter Sri Acharyaji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandh, fed him some Mahaprasad, and then kept him in his entourage. After some more days, Sri Acharyaji left Dwarka to continue his Holy Grace pilgrimage, and Ramdas went with him. He served in the kitchen. In fact, he helped with any other job that needed doing. In order to test him, Sri Acharyaji sometimes gave him very little to eat, or just one piece of bread. Ramdas, however, considered it his best good luck to receive the Mahaprasad. He never even considered that, "Oh, today I didn't get that or this prasad." Sri Acharyaji became very pleased with him, and then gave him all the prasadi edibles. If they were travelling a path with lots of thorns, then Ramdas would quickly go in front and sweep them all out of the way. One day he got a massive thorn stuck in his own foot. He thought to himself, "If I sit down and try to get this out, then Sri Acharyaji will have to wait for me, which would not be good. I would be failing in my duty. There are many more thorns on this path ahead, and I don't want any of them to prick Sri Acharyaji." Thus he neglected his own foot and kept on clearing the path. After some time, however, Sri Acharyaji stopped and told him to look after the thorn in his own foot. "I am very pleased with you, so ask any favour from me," he said. Ramdas replied that when he had taken shelter with Sri Acharyaji, then how could there be anything more to ask for? He simply asked that he always remain fully faithful on the path, that this would constitute all the grace he needed. Sri Acharyaji very happily agreed to Ramdas' simple requests. He reassured Ramdas that he was very happy with him, and that she would now stop and remove the thorn from his foot. "I will wait for you. This will never be offensive." Ramdas took out the thorn. In this manner he spent 10 years serving Sri Acharyaji. His love never faltered and he received much grace. Some time after this, Sri Acharyaji set off on another journey to the south of India. On that trip he met one Brahmin who presented him with a swarupa of Sri Thakurji, telling him that he could not properly perform his worship. Sri Acharyaji kept that swarupa close to him and served him for some days. Then one day they made camp just outside one village. Sri Acharyaji told Krishnadas to go into the village to fetch some grains and other raw food supplies. He also asked him to have him made a pair of wooden sandals without a toe peg. When the supplies had been brought and he had completed that day's seva, he told Ramdas to accept the Mahaprasad. Ramdas partook of the prasad and then approached Sri Acharyaji. Part 1. Sri Acharyaji bathed the Sri Thakurji given to him by the Brahmin in the 5 nectars. He gave the Sri Thakurji into Ramdas's responsibility. He named that Sri Thakurji Shri Natuwa Gopal Ji. He also gave to Ramdas the sandals after he had worn them. Bhav Prakash. Sri Acharyaji did not normally wear sandals but walked barefoot. In this way he purified the whole earth wherever he walked. The earth became satisfied. He put on and then gave Ramdas the sandals uniquely to bless him, and for the purpose of seva. That is why there are no toe pegs in these sandals. Part 1 continued. He gave Ramdas the Sri Thakurji with the command to serve him. Wherever you are, you will thus have no fear. You have the boon of devotion. Ramdas, however, still wanted to stay with Sri Acharyaji. He did recognize Sri Acharyaji's instructions and persuaded himself that if it was Sri Acharyaji's order, then it was in his best interest. He bowed low to Sri Acharyaji and took his leave. He immediately began to feel intense separation, and clutching the Sri Thakurji to his heart, he looked back again and again. Seeing him, Sri Acharyaji also felt much pain from being separated from such a Vaishnav. However, Ramdas's wife was a divine soul and a Pativrata wife, totally faithful to her husband, and she was sad alone at home, in her family with her mother and father. For her upliftment, Sri Acharyaji bid farewell to Ramdas. For 3 days Ramdas served the Sri Thakurji and the sandals. He made the appropriate offerings to them but gave all the prasad to the cows. He felt so much pain that he could not eat. The same was true of Sri Acharyaji as well. On the 4th day, when Ramdas had made the offerings and was in the process of receiving them back as prasad, Sri Acharyaji appeared to him and asked him why he was not partaking. I am always with you, so please accept the prasad. Ramdas gave part to the cows and then did partake of the Mahaprasad. In this way, with this renunciate mood, he wandered all over the place and finally came back to Rajnagar. By then his parents had died. His wife was living in her parents' house. Ramdas's father-in-law found out that Ramdas was coming that way, and he said to his daughter, "Look, your husband is coming. If he leaves here again, you may not have his company. If you want to go and live with him, then that is okay by me. You could also stay with us if you prefer." His daughter then spoke up, "Please take me to my husband. I do not wish for anything else." Her father then took her to Ramdas's home and again left. When she came close to Ramdas, he did not acknowledge her and did not speak to her at all. He stayed at home for 2 or 3 days and then set off for Dwarka. She left with him. He did not want her to come with him and actually threw bricks at her. She distanced herself a little bit but kept her vow as a faithful wife and walked behind him. If there was food left over on her husband's plate, then she ate, and if not, she went hungry. In this way they reached the 4th camp along the route. Then Sri Ranachorlalji himself came to Ramdas and asked him why he would not accept his wife. He replied that he was a renunciate and had no need for a wife. Sri Ranachorlalji asked him why he had married in the first place. "You are, after all, a disciple of Sri Acharyaji, and you should not be so cruel. Sri Acharyaji has graced you, and so you should not be cruel, and for the same reason, since you are the recipient of his grace, I cannot say too much to you, but you should accept your wife." Bhav Prakash. The reason for this is that your wife is also a divine soul. Sri Acharyaji left you to separate from him for the sake of her acceptance. So why don't you comply? Ramdas was graced by Sri Acharyaji in Dwarka. That is why Ramdas went to Dwarka. He did not just go to see Sri Ranachorlalji, but also because the place is for him closely related to Sri Acharyaji, and he wanders around contemplating his relationship with Sri Acharyaji and his position as his disciple. That is why Sri Ranachorlalji did not give Ramdas a direct order to accept his wife, neither did he punish him for his cruelty, but rather left this up to Sri Acharyaji. Part 1 continued. They reached the next camp, where Ram Das called his wife and asked her to get the supplies ready whilst he went to get some fuel for the fire, dried cow dung. She was pleased that he seemed to be happy with her that day. She said to him that she would bring the cow dung cakes, but he insisted that this was not suitable for a woman to do, and therefore he would do it. They did the cooking and made the offerings to Sri Thakurji, and afterwards, having put aside a plate for the cows, he served her up some Mahaprasad, and they both ate together. They did this all the way to Dwarka, and on arrival went to have the sight of Sri Ranchorlalji. Sri Ranchorlalji suggested to him that he initiate her with the Lord's name so that she would be able to assist in all the cooking tasks. "How can I do this?" Ramdas asked. "Only Sri Acharyaji can initiate her," he said. Sri Ranchorlalji insisted that he give her the Lord's name initiation on his order, and that he should then get her initiated when they next met Sri Acharyaji. Sri Ranchorlalji was quite insistent that this would be Sri Acharyaji's wish. So Ramdas initiated his wife, and thereafter let her fetch the water, do the cooking. They again left Dwarka. Ramdas felt that it was not appropriate to wander around with his wife in tow, and that they should stay in one place and worship the Lord. Keeping this thought, they reached home in Rajnagar and began to serve the Lord. After quite a few days, Sri Acharyaji arrived there. Ramdas bowed to him and invited him to his home, where he asked him to initiate his wife. Sri Acharyaji asked him why he wanted to repeat the process since he had already done it for her. Ramdas said that he had done what he had done on Sri Ranchorlalji's instructions, and that he had also told him to get Sri Acharyaji to initiate her too. "I knew that you were telling me to initiate her through Sri Ranchorlalji's words. Without your command I cannot do anything. Beyond this, you left me alone in order that my wife be accepted, and so I did what I was told." Sri Acharyaji was very pleased with Ramdas, and he initiated the wife with the Lord's name and the Brahma Sambandh. Then the two of them made that day's Seva and served Sri Acharyaji with the Mahaprasad, and they ate his leftovers. He ordered them to stay in one place from that day on and to serve the Lord there. Ramdas said that this was what he had been thinking about too. Sri Acharyaji left for Dwarka, and the couple served the Lord, also sharing readings and discussions on the Lord's pastimes whenever they were not actually practically engaged in the Seva. In this way they were both immersed in Seva and were blessed. Ramdas's wife was thus an accomplished devotee. Thus concludes Varta 33, the story of Ramdas, a Sanchora Brahmin from Rajnagar, and his wife, but truly there is no end to their story. Thus concludes the reading for today, the story of Ramdas, a Sanchora Brahmin from Rajnagar, and his wife, but truly there is no end to their story. Jai Shri Radhe, Sabhi Vaishnavon ko Sadar Saprem Jai Shri Krishna, Shri Vallabhadhi Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.